All right, what's going on, guys? So we got some more pretty big Call of Duty news. I think this is going to be my last Black Ops 7 video until the game actually comes out, unless we just happen to get some more crazy news. But this was just way too big of news for me to ignore. I have to make a video about it and talk about it. I've been fighting this fight for like 10 years to get to this point, so we're going to have to talk about this, right? So first of all, let me just say, I did upload my full review of the Black Ops 7 beta yesterday. You can go watch that video, but this video is going to be about something completely different. There's two very important things to talk about. So first of all, the biggest news, let me read this tweet. Open matchmaking confirmed. At launch, open matchmaking with minimal skill consideration will be the default matchmaking for Black Ops 7 MP. Our team is committed to providing players with a more varied experience, and the beta was a valuable opportunity to test this approach. They also followed this up with saying that lobbies will no longer disband, which is of course a side effect of skill-based matchmaking. So apparently they are going to be minimizing, not removing. There is a key difference there. It's not completely removing it from the game. I'm not going to get into the super details of it. We already knew that from the beta. The big difference here is in the beta, it was just a separate open playlist. So if people wanted to, they could just not play that playlist and go play the other ones, and there is skill-based matchmaking in the other playlist. But now, it's not a playlist, it's just the entire game. So no matter where you go, they are going to be minimalizing skill-based matchmaking. You won't be able to dodge it. I'm not going to go super into the details in this video. I literally just spoke about this whole topic for like 10 minutes in my review yesterday, so I'm not going to just reiterate that again. If you want my super like in-detail thoughts about it, just go watch that video. I will just reiterate here once again, anybody saying that there's no difference in the open playlist compared to the regular playlist, that person is either ass, like terrible at the game, or just retarded. Or maybe trolling, I don't know, one of those three. But there is a difference, and don't let anyone try to say that there isn't. There for sure is. So that being said, this is like extremely big news, man. I'm gonna be honest, never in a million years, like never again in the history or the future of Call of Duty did I think that they were gonna consider taking away skill-based matchmaking or even minimizing it or whatever, right? Especially last year when they started putting out all those papers and they started actually being a little bit upfront and honest about skill-based matchmaking. They said that they had data that showed them that skill-based matchmaking was increasing player retention and therefore increasing their revenue, because the more people play, the more likely they are to like buy stuff from the shop or whatever. So it's kind of insane to me that they are actually doing this, you know? I don't really know what caused them to have a change of heart. A lot of people are saying it's because of Battlefield coming out, and now they actually have some FPS competition. I mean, honestly, that probably is part of the reason, which is pretty hilarious, but that just shows that like having competition is very good, you know what I mean? Because if we didn't have Battlefield, they probably wouldn't do this. They probably just keep doing the same BS, and they were going to keep getting away with it because there was no other similar game for people to play, you know what I mean? So I'm not going to lie, I'm actually like kind of excited about the game now. I thought the game was like kind of mid, whatever, like it was cool, like I was going to play it and all that, but now with this news, they got me, man. Like I'm actually like a little bit more excited and actually like really looking forward to playing like normal lobbies again. Like it actually is probably going to be a lot of fun. So we'll see when the game drops how everything goes, but like, you know, we're talking about like I'm gonna have the M8 out on raid again with no skill-based matchmaking. Like that sounds like prime Black Ops 2. Like I haven't experienced that in like 15 years. Like shit sounds like a good time. I'm not gonna lie, they got me with that. So we're gonna see how that goes. So that's the skill-based matchmaking situation. On top of that, we have a second thing that I would like to talk about. Not quite as important, but still I think pretty interesting and actually gives some good insight into the behind the scenes of Call of Duty. So one of the Infinity Ward developers actually shared some very interesting information with regards to this open matchmaking announcement. So let me pull up these tweets. So you can see Courage quote tweets the open matchmaking announcement from Charlie Intel, and he says, you know, shout out to all the devs for always trying their best, but you know, Activision is the one who want skill-based matchmaking, and they don't listen to the developers, but today, we finally got them to listen. In response, one of the actual old developers at Infinity Ward had something to say. So he says, "The devs at IW made this decision. I was pushing back, but unfortunately was not working on multiplayer." And then someone responds, they say, "Wait, for real? How come it was in all the games not made by IW as well?" And then the developer responds again. He says, "They convinced the execs," referring to Activision. And then he also circled back later on after this post was getting a lot of attention, and he said, "I specifically remember arguing about this during Infinite Warfare development. I liken the lobby to the corner bar. We hang, meet people, and forge some friendships, a la MW1 or 2, or in my case, Quake 3 Arena. The push for faster matchmaking and better team balancing, SBMM, was their focus." So he was saying he wants the lobbies to be casual and kind of a place to like hang out and meet people, and the rest of the developers were like, "No, we need to be having SBMM, and it's all about matchmaking and all that, and like being super strict." So first of all, let me just post this guy's credentials on the screen. Yes, he is actually an Infinity Ward developer. He's not lying. You can look it up. This is like a real person. So just to give some credibility to what he's saying. But basically, if you see what he's saying here, right? He's saying that no, it actually wasn't Activision that was forcing SBMM into all the CODs. It was actually fucking Infinity Ward who put it in their COD and then told Activision, "Hey, we should add this to all the other CODs as well." That's pretty fucking insane news, right? Because this whole time, everyone's been so mad at Activision. We've all been blaming Activision for SBMM. I mean, don't get me wrong. There's plenty of things to be upset with Activision about, but it seems like SBMM, it's not their fault. It was actually Infinity Ward who created this problem. It was probably fucking Joe Seacott. Y'all remember that guy? I don't know if he's still around, but I remember he got bullied so much back in the day. He just like deactivated his Twitter and disappeared. I don't know if he's still with the company or whatever, but I remember that guy along with Michael Condrey. Well, he was with Sledgehammer, I believe. I mean, y'all remember my beef with Michael Condrey, and then obviously we had Vonderhaar at Treyarch. But anyways, Joe Seacott was the Infinity Ward guy. I don't know if he was the guy that was responsible for skill-based matchmaking, which would be hilarious. I wish I knew this information like 5 years ago when that guy was still around, because he's lucky that nobody knew this information back then, or they would have been getting him even worse than we already did. But this is very concerning news to me because, as you know, every year we get a new Call of Duty made by a different developer, right? So I think next year we're going to be getting an Infinity Ward Call of Duty. And if it really is Infinity Ward that's pushing the whole SBMM aspect of COD, does that mean next year that skill-based matchmaking is going to be right back into the game? Because I promise you that's not going to fucking fly in the community. Now that they took it away and they're actually like doing something good, they can't just come back next year and put that shit back in the game, bro. That is not going to work. No one is going to accept that. This needs to be a permanent change. So that is something to be concerned with for next year. Let's not worry about it too much right now. We got a whole nice year of COD coming up, hopefully. But I just want to put that out there. So we'll come back to this video. We'll remember this day of what was said, and we'll see what ends up happening for next year. But I did just want to point that out. And then one final thing, I don't know, maybe I'm crazy. I just have a little bit of a conspiracy theory. I don't know if anyone else has thought about this or if I'm just crazy, but I do have a little theory I'd like to share with this whole skill-based matchmaking situation for Black Ops 7. So as of right now, they have said that all of Black Ops 7 is going to be open matchmaking, right? Now remember, when they released their research paper and all their data, they stated that the reason they like skill-based matchmaking because it increased player retention, which then increases their revenue, the more they can get people in the game, right? So keeping that in mind, let me just run you through a little scenario, right? So let's say Black Ops 7 comes out, they start the game properly with the open matchmaking, the very, minimal skill-based matchmaking where you get normal lobbies. Everyone is super happy for the first month or two, let's say 2 months. And then they start, looking at all the data that they've gotten in the first couple months, and they start seeing, hey, our player retention for some of these trash players is going down, right? Because they're all getting shit on and they're not playing as much, or, whatever their data is telling them. At that point, do you guys not think that they would probably up the skill-based matchmaking a little bit? I'm not saying they would turn it all the way back on to what it is right now, but like couldn't you see them like upping it like 10%, 20% so that, you know, your lobbies have a little bit less noobs, not enough for anyone to freak out or maybe even notice or say anything, but just, you know, just a little bit harder than they were in the beginning of the game, right? And the thing is, no one could prove it, you know what I mean? You can't see that. It's just all like personal experience, anecdotal evidence. And let's say once again, they're not happy with the numbers. You know, it wasn't enough. They up it 10, 20% again. And now people are really starting to notice the lobbies. They're like, hey, these lobbies, they kind of feel like skill-based match. Like, not fully, but, you know, they don't feel like the lobbies did in November. Like, what's going on here? But once again, nobody can prove it. You know, we can't prove they're turning it back on. And, you know, it just kind of keeps turning up and up. And all of a sudden, we're loading into the fucking lobbies, and it's the same that it is right now. And it looks like skill-based is fully back. And then what are people going to say then? They're going to say, oh, no, you're just ass. You know, it's been 6 months, all the noobs left, you know, it's only good players left playing the game. People are going to start saying all sorts of shit. Meanwhile, the whole time, they're just like slowly ramping up the SBMM the whole time on the back end, and we can't prove it, but, you know, that's what they're secretly doing. So, I don't know, maybe I'm just fucking crazy for even thinking that way, but, like, I don't trust these guys after everything they've done over the last fucking 10 years, you know what I mean? Like, I don't care what they say, you know what I mean? I'll decide for myself once I play the game, you know, once I can do my own testing and everything. I don't really care what they have to say. So, that was just a little bit of a conspiracy theory that I wanted to throw out there. I just want to have it out there right now as evidence, because 6 months from now, maybe I'm right. And then I'm going to come back and I'm going to bring this video up, this moment in time. I'm going to mention it and we're going to talk about it again at that point. But just something I wanted to bring up, throw it out there. Maybe if anyone else was thinking that as well. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Regardless, really positive news for the future of Call of Duty, at least for this year. You know, we'll see how long this lasts or if it really is true and everything. But as of right now, October 9th, 2025, this is a historic moment in the future of Call of Duty. Like, this is the day that Call of Duty might actually go back to how it used to be. So it is something to be happy about. We will just have to wait and see what really happens when the game comes out. So anyways, once again, go check out my review that I posted yesterday if you are interested in my actual, like, in-depth thoughts about the game. Other than that, thank you guys so much for watching. Be sure to like rating if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you are not already. Follow me on Twitter. Links in the description down below. Check out my last video if you missed it. Other than that, have a good day and peace out.